Think about the difference between getting up, not meditating, not coming into alignment, not doing positive aspects, and not establishing yourself in your grid. So imagine not doing any of that. You just sort of blunder into your day. So the first thing that happens is you observe something that you really would rather not have observed. So now you're off on the wrong foot already. You're having a reaction to what's going on. And now that reaction is just happening back and forth, back and forth. And you're telling yourself, I'm not a good parent. I should be doing something different. I don't want it to be like that. You're using words to try to turn it around. It's not turning it around. It's just practicing that grid more. It's just making them feel more defensive. It's just perpetuating the very thing that you don't want. And then a wonderful thing happens. The end of the day comes and you get to go to bed. So now you go to bed, and as you lie there in your bed, do your best to appreciate the comfort of your bed. Go as general as you can. Think about the things that feel the least contentious to you and go to sleep. And when you awaken in the morning, spend some time, find the time, really. Set your alarm 15 minutes early if it requires that. But lie there with the determination that before you go out into your physical world, that you're going to establish your grid with your non-physical world. Because what will happen then is your grid will begin filling in with things that match that. Your grid will fill in with cooperative children. Your grid will fill in with cooperative traffic. Your grid will fill in with your best ideas. Your grid will fill in with you being tuned in, tapped in, turned on. Your grid will fill in with you anticipating things before they happen. Your grid will fill in with you being so energetic, meaning so on top of whatever's going on, so aware of the energy that you can say the right thing before it gets off on the wrong footing. You see what we're getting at? The cooperative components of this universe are enormous. We cannot even begin to describe the leverage of alignment. And we can't think of any subject that if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would want to apply it to more deliberately than the subject of parenting, because you don't care about anything, as we talked about before, as much as you care about that. Apply this conversation to everything, to your employee relationship, to your relationship with people in your neighborhood. Relationships, it's such an interesting thing. Most people do not tend to the only relationship that sets them in their power. Instead, they knee-jerk response to relationships all around them. And then from outside the vortex and from outside their power, try to figure out how to gain the most leverage. So let's start in another place. So let's say that you are moving through life experience and things are bothering you. Like our friend had 9 things that were not going well and something that is going well, but she's chronically, or you're chronically involved in the 9 things that aren't. And so your attention is upon those. So without really being too aware of it, you've got more resistance going on than you think you do, than you want to admit to.
Right.
So through all of that process, and if you're particularly active, if you're particularly involved in life experience, then you're launching lots of rockets of desire. And so your vortex is spinning, your stream is moving fast, who you really are is vibrating at this high pure place. But more and more things you're using as your excuse to not be vibrationally up to speed with that. Mm-hmm. So then, in the same way that you are really not aware that you were specifically creating and specifically holding yourself apart from what you're wanting, you're also probably not aware that you're giving attention specifically to things that you're pushing against. And the way things manifest, wanted or unwanted, something specific does not come to someone who hasn't activated the specifics of that vibration within them. That's just the powerful, clear, law-based statement that we must make. So, over the years that we've been playing with you, we've offered many analogies to help you understand that you are more than you see here in these physical bodies. We tell you that you are the creator of your own reality. Seth coined those phrases years ago. Do you get that? You are the creator of your own reality because you are the perceiver of your own experience. Therefore, you are the offer of your own vibration. Therefore, you are the creator of your own point of attraction. Therefore, law of attraction is answering every vibration that you're offering. Therefore, you get what you think about whether you want it or not. How about that? Well, that sounds easy enough, doesn't it? I get what I think about. I get what I think about. Ooh, look over there. That's not too good. Oh, don't want to think about that. Cancel. You say, don't want law of attraction to get hold of that one. But as you give your attention to whatever you give your attention to, don't worry about it. You're getting guidance that lets you know right here, right now, whether you're in alignment with who you really are and all that you want. There are 3 steps to the creative process. The first step is you have to ask. And the contrast that surrounds you causes you to do that all day, every day. You're launching those rockets of request, those rockets of desire all day, every day. The second step is source answers what you ask. We wrote a book a few years ago, best title ever, Ask and It Is Given. And that's what it's talking about. When you ask, the vibrational equivalent of what you've asked for forms. And you say, well, whoop-de-doo. There's a virtual bank account out there somewhere for me. And a virtual lover. Not that satisfying. But that's where step 3 comes in. Step 3 is you must be a vibrational match to what you've asked for. And you can't focus on the absence of what you want and be a vibrational match to the presence of what you want. And so if you're doing it with your thought, in other words, if you're evaluating all of the things in the world that you might think about and making a list, don't think about those things, don't think about those things, you're thinking about those things that you don't want to think about. That thing that you don't want to think about, you're thinking about while you're not wanting to think about it. And while you're thinking about it, you're offering a vibration about it. So law of attraction is bringing more of it to you. Now you're thinking about it more, aren't you? So when you're thinking about that thing you don't want to think about, you are launching rockets about what you do want. So if we were standing in your physical shoes, rather than paying so much attention to what we are thinking about, we would make our top priority be, how am I feeling? How am I feeling? I want to feel good. Today, no matter where I'm going, no matter what I'm doing, no matter who I'm doing it with, it is my dominant intent to look for things that when I focus upon them, I feel good. Because that means you're in alignment with who you are. So what does that mean? When you're in alignment with all of the expansion that is you, that is in the vortex, where all cooperative components to all things that you want have been gathered vibrationally, waiting in the wings, ready to explode into your experience in perfect timing. So if you will focus upon what you're doing with your grid, which means how am I feeling right here and now? If you will look for the easiest possible thing that you can find to feel good about and focus upon it and use that as your reason to establish your vibrational point of attraction, what you're going to begin to notice, you are already, is that your grid, who you are, where you stand, your manifestation. So what's the grid? The grid is your point of attraction. It's your perception of the world. It's your reality. It's your fleshed out, filled in reality. It's what you're seeing and hearing and smelling and tasting and touching. It's the reality that you are observing through your physical senses. You're so good at being a vibrational being, you don't even know you are one. What you translate through your nose is a vibrational interpretation. Do you get that? What you see with your eyes is a vibrational interpretation. What you hear and taste and feel with your fingertips, vibrational interpretations. So that grid will fill in with things that you can hear and see and smell and taste and touch. The grid filling in. Once you have established the grid that matches the vortex, life really becomes sweet. The most significant thing, the law-based thing that we want to say is, in any moment in time when you're rendezvousing with another, the one who has been focused with the most intensity on a vibrational pattern will sort of dominate the experience. But remember, we said one who's connected to the stream, one who's in alignment with who you really are, is really influential, millions of times more powerful than one who is not. So someone out of the vortex does not even compare in terms of vibration acuity to someone who is. But the question is your focus. In other words, it's easy for someone who is often focused in alignment with source to focus out of alignment. So we're really not even talking about the competition of I'm out of the vortex and I'm winning the energy struggle, and I'm in the vortex and I'm winning the energy struggle. It's not even about that. It's about you and what you are giving your attention to. And you just cannot give your attention to the things that you just verbalized just now without establishing a grid. In fact, This conversation is really helpful to so many, and it is the reason that we were eager to allow you to continue your conversation. But a really good teacher who is really wanting to assist you would stop you in the first words of that and just ask simply, what grid are you establishing? Because as you focus upon someone not having a good time, someone not having good self-esteem, someone not feeling good, or someone really not enjoying you when you are, or someone not enjoying you when you are to the point that you then join them in your out of the vortex. In other words, to be on the same wavelength with someone, you've got to go where they are. None of you said, I will be deliberately resistant. All of you said, resistance is part of a leading edge experience. And the more resistance I offer, the greater my desire to feel good will be. So there's no way I will ever really lose in this, because even the most resistant among you are the most desirous of feeling good among you. And when desire is really strong, it will trump belief every time. Years ago, we introduced the idea of pivoting. Pivoting, which means the other end of the vibrational stick. When you know what you don't want, you know what you do want. But the question is, when you know what you don't want, are you actively involved in the vibration of what you don't want? Or are you actively involved in the vibration of what you do want? So when you know what you don't want, if you don't have enough money, what do you find yourself talking about mostly? Plenty of money? Not usually. You could, and it would be just as easy. If you're sick, what do you find yourself talking mostly about? Oh, my head hurts. You're mostly talking about what is. And that really is what we want to stir up a little bit in this conversation that we're having here today. Do you want to talk about what is? If what is great, yes, yes, yes. Lists of positive aspects could not be a more valuable process for you. Rampages of appreciation, there's no tool that will serve you more. There is nothing better for you than to talk, focus, feel about the things in your world that are the way you want them to be. But those things that you identify as not the way you want them to be right now, you want to get off of them. Jerry used to tell a story, and Esther loved it because it was so explicit and made so much sense. She could see it right away. And when she held it in her consciousness, it served her. He said, sit in front of a fireplace. He lived in Arkansas at the time that he discovered this analogy. And there's a chinkapin log on the fire. Esther had never known what one of those was. She's still not sure she's ever seen one, but apparently when they are on fire, they pop a lot. So they are shooting sparks off at whoever is nearby. And he said, so you're sitting there with your beautiful new cashmere sweater, and a spark comes right to you, and he says, if you in that moment just flick it off, nothing happens to your beautiful sweater. But if you're distracted and don't notice, and you allow it to linger, then there is a bigger impact on your sweater. And his analogy is, when the thought first comes, and it's small and insignificant, and you flick it off by choosing another thought, it's simple. But if you allow it to smolder, if you allow it to grow, if you engage in conversations with others about it, if you write it in your diary, if you blog about it, if you write home about it, if you call that friend who always wants to know what's going on, and you tell them what's going on. In other words, are you ready to let go of more of what is on your way to where you're going? When you're driving down the highway, and it's a beautiful day out there, and you have this magnificent windshield, you just washed it, the day is bright, you're looking out ahead, or do you have your windshield installed in your floorboards? Or do you spend all of your time looking in your rearview mirror? The analogy is silly in that regard, because you know what would happen if you were just looking down at the road while you were going. If you were just looking at what is, you wouldn't get very far down the road. If you're looking in your rearview mirror, you wouldn't get very far down the road either, would you? And we don't for a minute ever want you to think that we don't think that the things that you are living, that the issues that you are contemplating, or the situations that you are standing in are not important, because every single one of them is. But we do want this gathering to be A sort of mental, if you want it to be for you, we can't do it for you, but we can intend it in terms of what we are offering. We would like it to be a sort of mental turning point where you decide you're going to start looking forward to what's coming with more enthusiasm as you detach more and more from anything negative about what is.